Hi everyone, I'm Pranali, and as you might be able to tell, I am pregnant with my second child. I am right now about 22 weeks, and I wanted to take this opportunity to share with seasoned Ashtanga Yoga practitioners pregnancy modifications for second series. Particularly, I wanted to give some options without props. There's a lot of material already out there regarding modifications, but they often use props. A lot of us over the past year haven't had the privilege of practicing at a shala. We may not have props at home, so I wanted to share these modifications with you so that you can get the benefits of practicing second series while pregnant without using props if you prefer. And I'll also offer some modifications with props as well. I find second series to be hugely beneficial during pregnancy. There's so much weight, obviously, that's being carried in the front of the body, that particularly the first part of second series, in which we're opening the chest, to me feels so good. Of course, with pregnancy, you want to honor what feels good to you. That is probably the most fundamental instruction that I could give any pregnant person, is that honor what feels right to your body. Some women choose not to practice the first 3 months. Some women choose to practice their entire pregnancy up until the day they give birth, and they feel great doing that. Others, need to stop at different points or modify different things. And so really, you want to do what feels good to you. These modifications obviously are for people who already have been practicing second series before getting pregnant. If you're learning second series, now is perhaps not the time to add new postures. But if you have been practicing second for a while, you become pregnant and you'd like to keep practicing it, then I hope this video is useful for you. So what I'm going to do is not go through every single posture, because not every single posture needs to be modified. I'll just go through the ones that I usually recommend some modifications for. The general rule of thumb, which again, all rules are flexible. The general rule of thumb is to avoid closed twists. Anything where you're twisting across the body, in which you're squeezing the belly or squishing the belly too much. Forward folds as well. You want to honor the size of your belly. So just, honor how you feel. And we'll just get started from Pashasana. So for Pashasana, obviously, normally that's a closed twist. Instead of practicing it with legs together, what we can do is simply practice it with legs apart. So just like this squatting position is really great for pregnant people anyway, especially if you're planning to have a vaginal delivery. If you'd like to have a vaginal delivery or work in that direction, practicing squats is great for your pelvic floor. So you can start here. I usually like to take 5 breaths here in this position. And then as I twist, I'm going to twist around one leg at a time. We'll come to the other side. We can release that and coming into Crouchasana. Crouchasana you can practice pretty much as is, except for you may wish to not fold forward. So you could just pick up that leg that's working towards being straight and just stay here instead of folding forward. If you find it difficult to catch the foot, you could take a scarf or a towel and use that to catch the foot as well, especially as the belly gets bigger. If it's uncomfortable to have the leg straight out in front of you, you could take it out to the side a little bit. I'll show you what that looks like from the front. Now you might feel like this is appropriate, or if the belly's getting large, you feel compressed, and just take that leg out to the side. Okay, Shalabhasana. All the next few postures generally require us to be on our belly, which we want to avoid when we're pregnant. So if you have props and you'd like to do a modification with props, you would set up a bolster, 2 bolsters actually, one underneath the hips and one underneath the breasts or the chest area. And if you don't have bolsters, you could use anything thick that you can roll up, like blankets or towels, whatever you have. So you would find your way onto these. It takes a little bit of finagling to get the right position. That feels pretty comfortable to me. So Shalabhasana with this modification looks like this. You see you have plenty of room for the belly here. And B position. Now if you prefer to do it without props, which generally I do, you can do this modification, which I really like. You start on the hands and the knees, and you're going to extend one arm and the opposite leg out. So I'm going to start with my right leg and my left arm. And switch sides. And we'll make our way through a vinyasa. For Bekasana, again, 2 versions of the modification, one with props and one without. You'll set up your 2 bolsters or whatever you're using. Place the hips on one, the chest on one. And you can bend the legs and take Bekasana like this. If you'd like a version without props, you'll come into it one leg at a time. So again, we'll start on all fours, and then bring the hips down toward the ground, bend one leg, take the hand inside the foot, and press the foot down as you rotate the fingers forward. And release. So same thing on the other side. First bring the hips down toward the ground. Then the opposite leg, reach inside the foot and take the position. Again, release, vinyasa. Dhanurasana, again, 2 options with props. You can probably see where I'm going. Setting up the same way. Bend the legs, catch the ankles, and lift up. If you are doing this version, as you get bigger, you may need to increase the height of your bolsters or towels or whatever you're using to create these props. just going to move these to the side now. To show you the non-prop version. Again, we're going to start on all fours. And we'll do one leg at a time. Opposite arm, opposite leg. So I'm going to reach my right leg back. My left hand will come back and catch the right ankle. And we'll lift up. Release. Take the opposite side. Left leg lifts. Right hand catches the ankle. And release. Parshvanirasana is actually fine to do because we're doing that back on our sides. We're not on our bellies. The only thing is that the transition through the center is a little tricky. It's not super graceful when we're pregnant. I'll just show you what I do. So I'll start this way so you can see me on the right side. I lie down on my side. Bend the legs. Catch the ankles. And take the position. To come out of it, we release the legs. And just come through the center without putting any pressure on the belly. And take the left side. We release. Now for the next few postures, Ustrasana, Lakavajrasana, Kapotasana, Supta Vajrasana. The belly is fine, there's no pressure on the belly, so you can take those as you feel comfortable. Kapotasana is a deep back bend, so you want to just be aware of that. My first pregnancy, I felt a lot of stretching sensations here in the front of my belly, so it didn't feel great to do Kapotasana all the way, so I would just crawl toward the feet or halfway up the feet. This pregnancy, I feel pretty open, actually. My Kapotasana is quite accessible, so I've been practicing full Kapotasana without a problem. You want to honor what feels appropriate for you, and it's important to remember that things can change from pregnancy to pregnancy if you are pregnant for the second or third or more time. Okay, and Supta Vajrasana, of course, you can cross the legs. If lotus starts to not feel good, you can just take a regular crossing of the legs or a half lotus and slide your legs underneath a piece of furniture or put a bolster or something else behind you to go back and forth. Bakasana is also fine. Some women choose not to jump during their pregnancy, so for Bakasana B, you may not want to jump, but I actually find that jumping into Bakasana B is pretty low impact if we have enough control, so it feels okay for me to jump. So I've been practicing Bakasana B without a problem. Bharadvajasana is an open twist, so no problem there. Ardha Matsyendrasana is one that we want to modify since it is a cross-body twist. Two options we have for Ardha Matsyendrasana. Here on the right side, what we can do if our belly is not too big yet is just take a very gentle twist so that we're not taking the full bind, but we are twisting in that same direction. Or you can twist the other way and make this an open twist, which I really like. And that way you can take the other arm back behind you and get a little bit of a sense of a bind. And now on the other side. You can take a very gentle twist to the left. Or you can take that open twist to the other side. I actually sometimes do both. It feels really good to have all kinds of twisting when I'm pregnant. Moving on from there to the leg behind the head postures. So again, leg behind the head postures, you really want to feel into what feels appropriate for you. Some women feel their hips are very open and leg behind the head feels great. Others may have a lower back pain or glute pain in the nerves there, and you don't want to stress the hips too much, so you may want to modify these. I'll show you usually what I do for Ekapada. If you don't want to take the leg all the way behind the head, you can just bring it up towards the face, or take a pigeon, of course. You know, pigeon posture would look like this. Something like that, and you could take it forward as much as you like. This could also be a great preparation for Ekapada. And if you want to take Ekapada Shirshasana, then you can take the leg behind the head and just stay here instead of folding forward so that you're not compressing the belly onto the leg that's straight on the ground. Then on the other side, feel free to start with a pigeon if you'd like as a preparation, or just do that instead of Ekapada. You can bring the foot in toward the face, or take the leg all the way around. And stay upright. Gently release. Okay. Now for Dvipada, I would say about through my first trimester, I didn't have any problem putting legs behind the head. But as I got bigger, I found it very uncomfortable. So I'm definitely at that stage now where I find it very uncomfortable to put both legs behind my head. So instead of Dvipada, I just do a modification in which I lift both the feet up towards the face. It looks like this. And from there, if you want to practice a Tikivasana, instead of B position, you can do that. So you would bring the arms underneath the legs and lift up. And take your vinyasa. Yoga Nidrasana, like I said, doesn't feel great to me anymore to put both my legs behind the head at the same time. So I borrow a posture from third series and just do one leg at a time, which looks like this. And when you lie down, you have the option of keeping that bottom leg bent or straight. If it feels okay to you, you can swing yourself up. And if that doesn't feel okay, I'll show you what else you can do on the other side. And as you lie down, you can keep that bottom leg bent or straight. And if you prefer not to swing, just gently while you're back here, take your leg out. And you can roll to the side and bring yourself up. Or, if it feels okay to you, while you're lying down, you could take a chakrasana. So chakrasana usually feels fine to me when I'm pregnant, but I do need to take it slow. I usually lie down, bend my knees, take my legs up, and then come into that transition. Okay, Titivasana is already an incredibly challenging posture. When pregnant, I find it even more challenging, but I do try to do it with modifications, and the modification really is just using a scarf or towel to help bind the arms, as it gets more and more challenging to bind the arms behind the back. So I'll show you what I do. I usually set up my scarf or towel on the ground behind me. Bring my hands right in front of that. And I step or just gently jump the feet forward. And put the feet down. And I catch my scarf or towel and take the hands behind the back. And then you can walk. Release the scarf or towel. Bring the legs a little closer together. Hook the hands around. And come out of it. If at any point that starts to feel too much, just leave it. That's really a great sort of mantra to work with as we do our pregnancy practices. If something starts to feel not good or too challenging, just leave it. All rules are flexible in general in our practice, but especially when you're pregnant. Honor what feels right to you. Okay, moving to Pinchamayurasana and the postures that follow it. If you are feeling good doing inversions, Pinchamayurasana is fine to do. If you're a little nervous about falling over, you may want to do it against a wall, and that's totally fine as well. Karandavasana, with crossing the legs and coming down, may feel good, it may not, especially as the belly gets bigger. You may not want to come down and compress the belly in that way. I'll show you a modification that I use to still practice that sensation of bringing the legs down, but not putting the legs in lotus. You can do it with the legs in Bakasana. So it looks like this. So you'll notice that I put my head down a little bit as I was coming down. As I get bigger, I find I need to do that. And if you're doing Karandavasana with the legs in lotus, you might need to put the head down a little bit as you come down as well. If you would prefer to do Karandavasana without Pinchamayurasana at all, so you can do it from the headstand, And that way you get the sensation of bringing the legs up and down, but it's just a little bit more accessible. And that would look like this. Okay? And again, you may feel like you just want to get rid of Karnasana altogether. That's totally fine. You could just take a pincha in the middle of the room or against the wall and leave it at that. Now, obviously, for Mayurasana, we don't want to squish the belly. So, usually I just take a vinyasa and I bring my elbows to my sides, like a chaturanga, but with the wrists facing forward. So I'll show you what that looks like. You can move through the vinyasa as you normally would. Bring the hands down. Inhale. Exhale. My hands are pretty wide, and my feet are pretty wide as well. Inhale again. Exhale, step back. And just come here. Hold for 5 breaths. You come into an upward facing, and a downward facing. Forward, inhale, exhale, inhale, and come back to the front. For Nakrasana also, I prefer not jumping like that when I'm pregnant, so I just hold my chaturanga for about 5 to 10 breaths. And then I usually just step through from there. For Vatayasana, I prefer not jumping with my one-legged lotus, so I just come into it from the ground, which looks like this. You start by bringing the one-legged lotus, the other foot onto the ground, and coming into the posture. When I'm pregnant, I like to have a wider stance. You can release that, and I usually just come down and switch sides. And release that. You would take your vinyasa. The next 2 postures, no need to modify. Parigasana feels great with side twist, open belly. Gomukhasana as well. If you find, actually in Gomukhasana, if you find some tension in the hips, you could do the gentler modification in which instead of being up on the feet, you just keep the feet to the sides. Right? So you could do it like this, and then take the arms up. The other side would be simply switching the legs, keeping the feet out to the sides. And then be positioned. And release. Now for Supta Urdhva Vajrasana, it's fine to do it. I personally don't feel great being upside down and having my leg in a full half-lotus position and binding, so I do modify that one. I'll show you what I do. I usually take both my legs behind my head and bring my right leg just above my left knee. And I flex my right foot
I use my left hand to catch a hold of my left big toe. My right arm is just down to my side.
And I flip up from there. And then when I'm up here, it feels fine to me to bring the leg into a half lotus, and I can come into a twist. And I'll show you what that looks like on the other side. You start by lying down, bringing both legs behind you, taking the left leg just above the right knee, taking the right big toe with the right hand, keeping the left arm on the ground, and flipping up. Once you're up, you could bring the top leg into half lotus and twist. And release. And then all we have left are the headstands. Again, if you feel good doing your inversions, fine to practice all those headstands. If you feel a little bit nervous about your balance and you want to make sure not to fall, of course, feel free to use the wall. The other thing to be aware of with the headstands is you may not want to practice the jump down, the landing in check body position. I usually just gently bring my legs down, so I'll just show you with the first one what that looks like. So after your 5 breaths, instead of landing in check body, you can just gently bring the legs down. And take your vinyasa. And you can do that with all 7 of those headstands. Moving through the transition just like that. Or if there are any of them that you prefer not to do, feels like too much weight on the head, that's something to be aware of. As you get bigger, you are going to have more weight on the head. So if you want to skip any of them, skip them. And then after that, we are ready for our back bends. Back bends could feel really great to you, or they could feel like something you want to be more gentle with. Honor how you feel. And then you can complete your practice as usual. Drawbacks might feel great to you as well after back bends, or they might not. Just be aware, like for me in this pregnancy, I feel really open in my back, so I have a desire to walk my hands really close to my feet, but if I do that, afterwards I feel a pinching sensation in the glutes, pretty low, so I usually just avoid getting too close to the heels, even if it feels really good in the moment. So that's something else you want to pay attention to, be aware of. It's not just how you feel in the moment while you're practicing, but how you feel after practice. And use the practice to enhance your well-being and your baby's well-being. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions at all about pregnancy modifications in second series or even in primary or third series, feel free to leave a comment or email me, and I'll be happy to support you in any way I can.